Okay, greetings. This is Classic Games Redefined. My name's Rich, and trying something a little bit different with the why that game video, why that series of videos we have. And we'll have a link to the info section. I gotta remember to point that way. You'll see in the corner, we'll do that, and if I have any other surprises, we'll put in there. So anyhow, what this video here is, it's looking at a video game system. I did an Atari about my Atari fanboy state and everything else. I'm looking at another important platform, arguably error in the era of video games, which was marked by the Neo Geo. Kind of the last hurrah for the arcades. I want to go a little bit of my memories of the system. Kind of early, mid, middle, late. Late being today, actually. So let me go a little bit into the details here for this. I own a Neo Geo X system. It's the Tomco system where they licensed it. There's been disputes over the licensing. But with that, it runs an emulator, play stuff as a little handheld you can take out. That one there, I own, and I was watching the Keep Apicary video, the Neo Geo theme song. We'll put that in there also, and it's just I thought I might as well talk about the Neo Geo. I mean, I also have this on the Vita. I have it. I also have this on my PlayStation 2, which is the Neo Geo Collection. SNK, it's got 16 games in there. Art of Fighting, Baseball Stars 2, and Burning Fight, and all that. Anyhow, I have this. I have it on different systems. I've played stuff here. If I'll see a Neo Geo machine, I'll play across it. So, I mean, in arcade, I'll try it. But I've had a number of memories with that. And anybody, you'll hear Neo Geo talk. If you're not familiar with it, you might be popping in this video. Odds are you probably know about it and you're a fan. You might be just curious what my thoughts are. But anyhow, I want to go into it. Let's talk about the early memories I had for it, which is the first time I see it. I remember reading like Electronic Game Monthly about this awesome system coming up and everything else. And I saw it I saw it in the arcades also. I mean, I saw stuff. I also rented it, and the graphics were incredible on it. Rented a system from a local mom and pop video game store. They charged a premium for it, but I liked stuff so much. I was making videotapes I could show people. I mean, you had stuff like Magician Lord, which had really good music. Burning Fight, which is a Final Fight clone that they did. Super Spy, which is arguably like the first-person shooter perspective. I mean, you could whip out a gun and shoot guys. Really cheesy. You had a leveling up system that has a little bit of RPG element. I believe Cross Swords is another thing they did years later with better graphics, which is like medieval and you'd fight and block and everything else. But it was more like a first-person brawler. And the graphics were kind of, you saw how they cut corners. One guy would come up rolling with you and the patch on his knee would switch sides. And Nom 75 was another one because I like Cabal, and King of the Monsters, which was wrestling. As I said, I think I made mention of this. Yes, I have this too on the PlayStation 2. I think I did make mention of it before. Bear with, I'm just going through my notes. I have a memory card in it, which was kind of neat. You could pick up and play or go home, but this is one of the points that we had weird was that you wouldn't go home. You had it, you did this. But talking about coming home, that was the big selling point for the Neo Geo, was bring the arcade experience home. The irony of this format, which was to save at home, which could put multiple carts in there, as you see in the front on this system. This is an SNK thing. I managed to use the wiki images. That's where I was finding these different ones here, so they're kind of like public domain. Anyhow, the thing that was interesting is that format, which was supposed to mean bring the thing home by the standardized controllers, actually extended the arcade. It was interesting that things would, and this is like midpoint of my memories towards the later years, is the arcade stuff wound up being that you had to do stuff on a Neo Geo. It had a low footprint. You could put things in a bowling alley, for example. That's where I've seen it with the different things, and supermarkets would have in front. And yeah, bar. And I remember, yeah, and stuff like this is that when Street Fighter hit, that helped revive. SNK wrote it, and they were like the king of the fighting games. But there's a lot more to it. But they're the king of the fighting games. That's what they did back in the day. I mean, there was like, the Fatal Fury and everything else. For me, I remember seeing World Heroes at a local bar where I was going to college, and Brocken's my guy. I like Bison from Street Fighter 2 because I'm more of a charge move. I can't seem to do the loop, but if I do charge back, that's why I like Guile. But anyhow, Brogdon's a guy because he would do the Psycho Crusho from that. He'd shoot projectiles from his knee, zapping, and he had the Dulcim stretch out. So he had all the moves I liked for it. And then was like at a supermarket, for example, going a little bit of stories. I remember seeing these things here. King of the Fighters, for example. That was another thing I remember seeing. King of the Fighters, which was the whole team fighting at the supermarket. You pick out your team. Really awesome at that point. And there was another one even on the Neo Geo that came before that, which was the tag team battle out. And they had that there. And then there's, of course, there's the Timeless Metal Slug. Which the graphics remind me of an artist who did stuff for Man Magazine, but man, the art is really good. I will get a little bit of my memories now, but if I break out my system at a convention, that's one of the things they go for, if not the fighting games. Then there's Aerial Fighters, the Sonic Wings, which is the first time I saw this. Normally, you'd have the shoot 'em up guy with the ship, and he'd get all the power ups. You had to pick which guy you had to get power ups, and that game stands out. Had kind of a little bit of campy humor, everything else. But like the fighting games you had different fighters or something else, and they'd like it, and they would have different abilities. So you had that, and matter of fact, I think it's this little tiny handheld which I have, which actually I think it's got Sonic Wings slash Aerial Fighters here in the West. They have it. I mean, there's other stuff too, like Bust a Move. I remember seeing that puzzle game was on a Neo Geo system. So a lot of stuff there. The Last Hurrah, the arcade. They got another 5 years. Right around it came out right at the tail end of when the arcade was going away and stuff. It still had it. And anybody remember the arcades back then? Myself being one of them, you just had fun memories of this. It was like for me seeing the Amiga with the graphics on that. Just the graphics really held up well. And it's because sprites age well. We look at the era, you can go back to NES, you play because it's sprite based. The one era that you might have good gameplay from it is the 32-bit era, the PlayStation, Saturn, I believe N64. That era there, the graphics just, you don't play for the graphics. There might be some things that got okay. I mean, Tekken 2, I think, onward kind of looked okay. PlayStation 2 really started anchoring down. That era started getting the sprites, but even though they don't age well when you try to go 40, sprites do age well. Neo Geo was a sprite-based machine, and what it did, it's claimed to be 24-bit. By like 16-bit graphics beefed up with an additional 8-bit in there, and just really graphics with large sprites held up well. They still hold up even well today. I'll show you the extent of it. I'll go to like local conventions. I break out all my retro stuff there. I have the Neo Geo X when I break it out and show it to people, or some might be some other emulation stuff, and the stuff gets played. I mean, that thing, Metal Slug in particular, just the animation in Metal Slug is really, really incredible. You can play it; it still nails hard. You can sit on more difficulty, but you have other stuff there that holds up well. You're not looking for photorealism, but has a good art style. Holds up well. I mean, there's other stuff towards the tail end with the Neo Geo that came up with stuff like The Last Blade, I believe. Last Blade. Really good graphics. And on the fighting games, yeah, there was the other things I mentioned fighting games earlier, like Samurai Showdown. Really good graphics, good gameplay and stuff like this. I mean, there was stuff like Viewpoint is another shooter I happen to like. It's like Zaxxon. I'm a shooter guy. I like a lot of stuff. You'll see the channel. I mean, I like fighting it. I like pretty much all the stuff here. I'm not much of a rhythm person. And I like my games to be games. I think Dragon's Lair is cute. It's its own thing. I just don't like games to go accessibly in that format. But I ought to do a video on confessionals about... There's some AAA stuff I don't like. I do that. I mean, Uncharted. But anyhow, stuff like Blazing Star is another one that really good graphics. I could break this stuff out here. And then there's other stuff that they came out with. I had to get a compilation pack like this here. Like Top Hunter is another one here. Yeah, the other stuff here. Oh, Sengoku is another one I'm looking at here. That was another brawler game. Mutation Nation is another one they had. It's really good stuff. Yeah, it's just... It holds up well now. Because care went into doing the styling and everything else, and you had it. And it just, like, with animation, you lay out a world with style in it because your mind accepts it and goes with it. It's interesting today that what we have here regarding the video game stuff is that, like, we have so much advanced graphics. We're hitting diminishing returns regarding the realism. But you can do something like Borderlands, and you may or may not like the art style, but the art style still holds up. You can polish it. You still play it later. I think Street Fighter 4, for example, I think has a good art style with polygons. Art style matters. To use something aesthetically pleasing, you can go back to it. I mean, you can still read comic strips, look at classic animated cartoons and stuff, and it goes well. So anyhow, you're a Neo Geo fan. Feel free to like up. If you're not necessarily a Neo Geo fan, whatever else, that's fine. What are your memories of some of the old systems? Feel free in the comments below to post what your thoughts are regarding that. Be interested in hearing them. Maybe we can discuss this further. If you're a Neo Geo fan, particularly, put your comments on what you like. Anything else, and definitely do that. So that's the latest. This is just another one of these Why That videos, and that's about it. So I do want to thank you for watching, and may your die always roll 5.